And we are live.
Acting foolish, overdressed, confusing the crowd. You won't see me at this bar again. Happy hour, habits, lost my feet on the ground.
Coming to you live from the great state of Wisconsin is I'm your host, Will Massa with Overdue Sports. To my right, as always, Jake Sawinski. How we doing today, brother?
Oh, as you can see, as in the little header under my name, we are up units this week. Managed to not piss it all away. So, good week when that happens, betting wise. Of course, your whole week doesn't just go with your betting, but it's always nice when you're not paying out either. So, good week.
Yeah, that makes two of us. I had a really big weekend. All the rest of my week was like kind of just stagnant, like back and forth, up and down the exact same amount every day, but able to break through the wall this weekend, which feels pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience too. More so, though, for me, it was not the huge, up and down volatile days, right? Like, of course, you're going to get some variance throughout the week, but when, you're talking 3, 4 units up or 2, 3 units down, like that's a lot more manageable than, oh, I went 10-1 today, as opposed to what happened this week. And then, like, the next day, I went 2-8 today. It's like, that's not very fun. I like it a little more even keeled myself, but no complaints. No complaints this week.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've been more so the up 6, down 6 units kind of thing all week, but
Not fun.
But I got one more game running right now. I got Oregon State playing Oklahoma State in baseball, but they're up by 8 in the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 22-13 week, which I'll take that every single time.
Oh yeah, and if you're not laying juice too, that really adds up. Because you get
I'm laying juice.
2 or 3. Oh yeah, I don't do that usually, but sweating the Ducks right now. I don't even know what the score is, and I don't really care.
Well, they just dropped, didn't they?
Oh yeah, Ducks rhymes with suck. So
that's been a team. I think I actually don't think I've bet on them this year, and I feel like I'm tempted all the time, and I just look at it and I'm like, I can't.
They're not as bad as you'd think.
They've got some good goalie play. I actually like.
Oh yeah, Gibson's
Gibson.
really good. Who's their backup goalie? Is it Dostal? Or I don't know. He might get. I think it's like Dostal. I'm not sure entirely, but yeah, the only problem with them is they give up a lot of shots every night. But yeah, I think I have bet on every team in the NHL multiple times now. I remember early on in the season, like I bet the Ducks after like a football Sunday, they covered beat the Hurricanes like 6-3. I was really kicking myself. I didn't play them like plus 275 on a money line, but I don't know. They've been pretty bad. Nashville looks really good. I don't know. Roll the dice and see what happens.
Has been probably the worst team for me, betting and fading this entire year. It seems like every time I think it's a good spot, Saros lets up like 10 goals. Like he just isn't there. And then I'm like, oh, this is a good spot. Like they're coming out 4 wins, should be an easy fade. Like I'm getting a good line, and then he shuts them out. It's like,
yeah, he's really good.
Like I have not been able to get right.
Yeah, goalies are streaky. They're streaky by nature. It's kind of like pitching in a way, right? Like, just get in a rut or you get on a groove. You never know what you can do. That team for me is the Islanders, so those guys, I never seem to get them right.
Well, what, they rattled up? How many did they win in right before the break? January? They won every single game, right?
Yeah, they got really hot. I cashed in on them a couple of times. The Islanders being, really bad defensively and bad to me has been a little more recent. But, like I remember I'd bet them Islanders are like stereotypical unders, right? Just because a lot because of last year, that goalie tandem they had was really good. And that's just has not been the same thing in the last at least, couple of weeks. But yeah, that team really makes me angry sometimes. But I'm not going to rant about what happened a week ago. That's in the past.
So, we already covered that.
Yeah, we covered that one already. But yeah, as we go through the previous week, we might touch on a couple of things that already happened just that's kind of how our brains work, just because we go Monday to Sunday, so we kind of recorded that first episode in the middle of the week, so we might have some overlap, but shouldn't happen too much going forward.
Yeah, we'll be on a much more regular schedule. I actually had a pretty good Saturday. I held some restraint over the last couple of Saturdays. Historically, this year have like kicked my ass outside of probably like the first 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just like gotten into it. Like to me, I feel like you can't be that successful unless you're either going like 5 games or under, or like 60 games. There's 170 games. Like I can't run late, and like there was a time like every Saturday it was 10 to 15 picks, and I was just like aiming for 7-7. Like 7-7 was like a respectable Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it's kind of the same logic of what you're going after, right? It's like, oh, okay, you can look at the whole slates holistically, right? And pick out, I don't know, the first tip's at 11. Your last game's usually at, I say 11 Central. But that last game's like 9 p.m. So it's like you pick one every couple of hours if you like it. But for me, what I do is I usually just break it into slates, right? I'll look a little bit every couple of hours, and if there's anything I like, I'll add it. That way, it's like you don't rip everything at once. If you're like, you can tell if you're gonna have a bad day, right? Like, okay, say from the first games until that second slate at 1-2 o'clock. If you go 0-4, 0-5, you probably know it's not going to be a good day. So if you want to keep going, you can scale it down, or you just like, whatever, I'm done today. I always run into trouble when I log everything at once for one day. Like, oh, I like 15 things and I bet 15 games. And like, if your headspace isn't right, you didn't do your homework the right way that day, it's going to be a bad day. So I've always liked to, at least with the big slates, just, do it as you go. Add as the games happen. Don't block everything off. But then again, like if you know you have a good spot and that line's not going to be there, maybe that's when you would consider, putting it in. Like I'm kind of kicking myself because Wake Forest was in a really good spot. I mean, home favorite against Duke. And
I was on that.
Yeah, that was
I
a
had the
good bet.
2.5.
Yeah, I didn't want to lay that 2.5 though, just because it's like you get to a point where everybody's on that spread and it doesn't move a ton. That makes me a little nervous. So if I were to do that, I probably would have just played a money line. But I forgot to do it Friday night when it was like minus 130. By the time game time rolled around, yeah, it was like minus 160, minus 165. I'm like, I'm not going to lay that juice for that. So I passed on that one, but that was definitely a good spot.
Yeah, which was very surprising to me because the ACC has just eaten my lunch this year. Like I'm with that Wake Forest win, I'm 3-14 in the ACC this year. Like I like it doesn't matter what I do. Like it's. I remember I was just thinking like the last big Saturday I bet on Syracuse against Clemson at home, and Syracuse shot like 25% through 30 minutes. And they still only lost by like 7. Like they hardly didn't cover. Like I just cannot get anything in the ACC right. It's by far my worst conference, and it's not close. Like it really isn't. I actually forgot about it on Saturday because I like that Wake Forest spot so much, and I haven't bet the ACC in like over 2 weeks, just because I was like this. Like if I bet it, like it's not hitting.
Yeah,
and so I just haven't done it, and finally ran into one.
I've noticed that like I'll go through ebbs and flows in conferences for the most part. Like a little streaky, right? Like I think the biggest discrepancy you can look at is for, people betting Power 5 conferences versus like, betting some stupid SoCon game at 10 o'clock in the afternoon or 10 o'clock in the morning, I should say. But aside from that, it's like each conference kind of has its own little wrinkle too, right? I mean, everybody's got the good teams, the bad teams. Of course, like it sounds like you're saying something so obvious, Jake, but it's true. Like you have to kind of know the conference too. It's just the name of the game, right? And I was pretty good in the ACC on Saturday. I think I hit Pitt. I like that Wake Forest spot. I didn't play it. I hit Syracuse a couple of days ago. I think that was Wednesday night. But yeah, like I've It just comes and goes. You know how it is. It's the same thing in any other conference. But yeah, I get what you mean though. Sometimes it just
this year has not been my year for. I mean, we're really at the tail end, and it's just still like nothing really kicked. And I feel like, and I don't have any conferences that like I overly bet more than the others. Like typically over the last 2 years, it's been like the Big 12 and the Mountain West that are typically my most two, which also happen to be like my best two. And I think that's why I'm just like typically laying games in those because I feel like I have a better handle on those teams. But the ACC this year, man, and I don't even want to get started on the SWAC. I was telling Jake last week, I haven't hit a SWAC bet in 2 years. like 0-10 in the SWAC over the last 2 seasons, and I just
I'll do
SWAC
the
Mondays.
I'll do the SWAC talking. That's for sure. Even though I know the same amount as you do, but
I mean, we can be pretty certain that every single game in their tournament is going to be delayed. So
that's true. That's
I can bet on that.
Yeah, Big 12 it usually isn't my friend. I struggle in the Big 12 a little bit. Pac-12 too, but the Big 12 is a little weird because it seems like, you know how you get that big number, like we were talking at the end of the recording we did on Thursday, where I laid the 13 with Arizona. Yeah, they just lost outright, so that was a bad bet. But it seems like
that line was so like wrong, like especially for a team that had already beaten them once.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. I don't know if Arizona was up by more than like 5 at any given time, and then they just lost. But the point I was trying to make is it seems like in the Big 12, those are always way tighter. You know what I mean? It seems like the odds makers, at least in my experience, it seems like teams like Houston or Iowa State getting those big numbers against a pretty good Big 12 team, just because that conference is pretty good, top to bottom. It seems like they're always really tight. It might not come through at the number you get it at, but it seems like it's pretty close. And when the lines are so tight like that, how often are you going to get lucky? You're not going to get lucky on everyone. So
wasn't this year like I can't remember who I was listening to. Somebody had mentioned that spreads in the 9 to 12 range are like the least profitable this season. Like those numbers have done like really, really bad this year.
That wouldn't surprise me just because okay, when you typically stop fouling altogether, when you're losing and trying to get back into the game, 13. Like if you give up, I don't know. Maybe I feel like I haven't seen a ton of the dumb fouls either. Like the foul with 0.2 seconds left for no reason.
Not.
No, I mean, I could be totally off because there's thousands of games and there's no earthly way we could see them all. But I feel like you just give up. Like I feel like I haven't seen a ton of that. Those crazy spread killers. Like it happens here and there, but once it's double digits plus, you're probably like, okay. That's it.
I'll tell you what, I had a game on Saturday that I took that I mentioned this on Thursday. I haven't had like that many bad beats. I had one on Thursday with Nebraska Omaha. I don't even want to get into that again, but it seems like all my losses like haven't even been close. And I bet UWGB -3 at home the other day against Purdue Fort Wayne, and they lost by 28. And it was never like they were just never in that. Like, and that team is also really weird to me. That Purdue Fort Wayne team, like, seems like everyone's like they just get like blown out by the really bad teams in the Horizon. But like, there's talent there. Yeah, there's talent there. Like that team isn't bad, but they just I don't know. I have no feel for that team.
Yeah, when we say they're not bad, we mean relatively, because
relative to the conference.
They are bad, yes. Like, let's be clear about that. They are a bad basketball team when you compare them to a good basketball team. But yes, in this example, they're not that bad. So you want to break down like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, how we did, what spots we cashed in on, what spots we didn't do too hot on?
Yeah, I'll let you really dive into the college basketball. I only bet, when was the 23rd? 23rd was Friday. So I went 1-1 on Friday, and then I went 3-0 on Saturday. And that was it. Like I took this weekend pretty light. I was really focused on the college baseball weekend. So I'll let you really dive in on your college basketball week because I know you had a lot more bets than I did.
Yeah. Friday, I don't typically do all that well on Fridays just because the quality of the games are really poor. And the MAC has not been very kind to me as of, last couple of weeks. I bet 2 games, I think. Yeah, that's all I did was 2 games. I did Toledo, or not, I'm sorry, not Toledo. I did the Kent State and Akron under. And I was at the gym before I got back. Like that game started at 5. I got back at like, I don't know, 5:45, whatever. Um, that first half, it looked like, oh, we're sitting pretty. They had 59 points at halftime. Pace appeared to be fine. It didn't seem like they were, just missing a ton of their shots. 2 different teams came out in the second half. They scored 90 points. So 94 to be exact. Yeah, it was just, that one's over. That's the most helpless feeling, too, when you're betting under, and it just, they won't miss.
Yeah, and they
like
just
yeah, they fouled each other. They wouldn't miss. They were running up and down, fast break, the whole shebang. So it's just like, well, that one's done. And then I haven't used ESPN Plus this year, so most of the time I'm not watching these games. I just track it on my phone or whatever, or check it periodically. Manhattan and Marist. This is one of my talents, by the way. Pick a side or a total in a game where if you pick the total, the side would have been super easy, or vice versa. You'd pick the total, or I think I just said that. If you pick the side, the total's super easy, right? I took the 7.5 with Manhattan. The under cashed by like 25, 30 points. So that would have been way easier. But I'm here and, in my living room sweating out Manhattan plus 7.5. They're horrible against
awful.
Marist. Yeah. They were up like 8 at halftime. They were down as much as like 12, I think. And they covered. They lost by 7. That was cool. But yeah, I mean, Fridays I typically try to take it easy anyways. I guess the rest of the week's kind of a barometer for what I do on Saturday or on Fridays. Like if I had a stinky Thursday, I try to just, ease into it. But I was pretty good on Thursday, so that was a rare instance of I just didn't like anything on Friday, college basketball wise. Did a little more hockey, donated an NBA bet on the Wizards. Yeah, don't do that.
As you do.
They lost by like 45. Yeah.
More
That's why you don't
not
tail
NBA bets.
Yeah, that's why you don't tail my NBA bets. That's why I don't talk about my NBA bets unless I'm laughing.
We have never ever even. I think this is going to be the introduction that we even like dabble in it from time to time. Nobody has ever asked about it. Like we've never thrown it out there. It's always just like never something.
And even if I was good at it, like even if I was profitable at it, I wouldn't release it. If I wasn't down in that league, I wouldn't play that league. I think that league's a joke. The products to me is a joke. Like I just like the people online that are like, "Oh, how can you watch college basketball where like they miss 18 threes in a row or the final score is 39 to 52." It's like, well, at least you're getting that. And like at least it looks like they care. Like the NBA is just
and guys don't play every other day.
Like that All-Star game. Like, are you kidding me? Like, who wants to watch that?
It went over 400, didn't it?
Yeah, the total is like 354 or something.
Yeah, it's soared.
357. Yeah, it was over 400 points. It's stupid. Like, who wants to watch that? It's a joke.
That's my one beef with the NHL All-Star game is like I think it's cool to see that like guys score that much, but I think it would be really cool if they did it out of season because like nobody hits because you're in the middle of the season.
Yeah,
like it's like not like, but if you could get that at the end, I think that would.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between like like baseball, right? Baseball's kind of the same thing. Regardless, and I mean, most of the time you get injured in baseball, it's usually a fluke thing, anyways, just because it's not a contact sport. But like, you can have an entertaining all-star game that like at least sort of resembles what that you're supposed to do. Like the NBA is not even that. Like, you can't even get
No.
guys to participate in a dunk contest. Like, everyone slams that every year. No pun intended. But it's like, incentivize your good players to be in the dunk contest. Like, it's
And it was
insane to
bad.
me.
Like it was
That's
really.
what I
I don't know if
mean.
you watched any of it. Like I
No.
saw like the best of the best. Like I saw like little clips of the highlights, and they were like 90%. They just started like dunking over people. Like there was no like creativity or anything. Like, the dunk over Shaq was, that's a good one. Max
Hmm.
McClung isn't actually like huge, so that was
Yeah, that
impressive.
kid's cool though. He's like 6 feet tall, and he's got like a
Yeah,
5
yeah, he's
foot
a freak.
vertical.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. But
yeah, but
I mean,
other than
outside
that,
of
though,
that, no, I can't get into it either. But
no.
all right, you want to talk about your Friday bets, or you want me to just keep trucking along?
Yeah, I mentioned UWGB earlier. That was
Mm-hmm.
just never close. And then I hopped on Akron -7 against Kent State, which is typically like the game in the MAC. Kent State is pretty down this year. They lost a lot
Yeah,
from last year. I really liked that team last year, and they're I want to say they're like fourth in the MAC right now.
that
They're
sounds
just
about
like,
right. Fourth or
yeah,
fifth.
they're just not the same team. But Akron laying like a pretty big number in a rivalry game too, and typically the home teams roll in that game. Like historically, the home team typically covers that game, and that spread on a really good year. Like last year, I bet both of those on the home and homes, and I think both spreads were like 2 to 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
And Akron is miles better than Kent State this year, based on what I have seen, and they're only laying 7, so that was a good spot. They won by 13. It was pretty easy. Both my bets that day were super easy. It was just opposite directions. It was
Mm-hmm.
like I knew GB was dead in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Akron pretty much handled that entire game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll happen. Stick to Friday. Move to Saturday basketball. How you want to do it?
Yeah, I can. I'll run through some college baseball. Friday was pretty good. I've actually been like one pick away from sweeping my whole card every single day this weekend. Um, and
It's a good
I'm
problem
3
to
outs
have.
away from having a monster day today. Oregon State
Mm-hmm.
is 3 outs away from securing that for my biggest play of the season so far. So I'm in for a pretty good day today, but I pretty much have just been up a half a unit every day this weekend in college
Mm-hmm.
baseball, which I'll take every time. Like I've kind of just been getting, and now that like opening weekend is done and lineups are starting to form, and you can kind of get a feel for rotations and bullpen guys being used. Like what you're gonna get day to day, and that's really like when handicapping this sport becomes a lot
Mm-hmm.
better. Whereas like when you're just trying to fight for a lineup, like trying to figure out who's going to play day to day, it's way harder.
Mm-hmm.
So my opening weekend was really rough, but we're going to come out of this week up. We'll come out of this week up 5 units, so can't
Gotta
really
play.
complain there.
No.
I'll play every time. Yeah, today's going to be a really big day for me. So yeah, I had a good weekend. That was kind of my weekend rundown. I bet ECU every single game and against North Carolina, and they won 2 out of the 3 as dogs. So stuff like that, like that's an easy one to get. Arkansas killed me last night. I don't know if anyone watched that game. They went to 16 innings against Oklahoma State, 1-1. They left runners in scoring position every single inning from the 8th to the 15th, and they lost on a bases loaded suicide squeeze.
Ooh,
That's
tough.
how that one ended. And that was like the one to bust my day yesterday for like a slight
Mm-hmm.
day. But I'm already gathering my wagons of the year, which I'm really excited about, and I'm gonna touch on those teams later. But overall, like I had a very solid weekend. I mean, I took Saturday really light in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Had
I did not.
Kansas State had a pick hosting BYU, and that one they led the whole game by like 5, pretty much the whole game, and then
Mm-hmm.
ran away with it late. And that was a pretty easy one. I had the Wake game, which was back and forth. Duke hadn't lost. I was watching that game or score watching it, and at halftime they were down by 2, I think, and Duke hadn't lost like an in-conference game when they lead at halftime in like 2 seasons. And then there was the whole incident at the end.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. What do you think of court storming? Because I don't think it's a problem whatsoever.
You can't get rid of it. That's like
No.
that's the heart and soul of college basketball.
Did Filipowski not shove the elbow that kid either? Like, I get it,
Dude,
some drunk
he was like
hooligans running at you, but
he was like
a shiver.
he was like a quarter inch from ruining that kid's day. Like he just missed that first kid,
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like obviously like the kid from behind like shoves him afterwards. But like you're a drunk kid running on the court and you see an opposing player like shove another student, you're probably going to give him a push back.
Oh yeah, it's like Caitlin Clark 2.0. She flopped, by the way, but that
Yeah,
one
so
was
did he.
funny.
He also initiated it. He
Yeah, I know.
easily could have gotten out of the way. And then him and the coach have the audacity to come out and be like, end the court storming. This is someone's gonna get hurt and this is terrible for the game. You think kids care? Like if they fine the school, those fines are worth like what, 10 kids tuition? Right? It's like in the Big
Maybe.
12, I think it's like a $200,000
You
fine in
might
the
be
Big
out of
12.
touch with how much tuition costs, but yeah, like maybe
That's probably about right,
for
10,
2
maybe less.
semesters, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's what I mean. On one
I
year.
think Wake Forest tuition for 3-4 years is about that. I'd say.
But you can't take that down. Like you can't get rid of
No,
it.
and even if they do, like they're not gonna enforce it. What are
How are
you
you
gonna
going to police
do?
that?
How are you gonna stop? Yeah, hundreds of kids storming the court, and like John Shire's like defending his player as he should. Like you can't really knock him for doing that. Like I mean, he sounds like a doofus saying that, of course, right? But like, what do you want him to do? Be like, yeah, it's cool. He should have got off the court. Like he's got to say something to defend his
That's
player. Of
true.
course he's gonna. He's not gonna throw him under the bus. But yeah, he did sound kind of douchey. But you are the Duke coach. I mean,
Well, then the Filipowski came on Twitter and he was like, "We have to do something about this," and everybody was just torching him in the comments.
yeah,
Everyone was just like, "You should just
rightfully
win.
so.
Like if you just won, wouldn't have been a problem."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what else are you gonna say? And the only thing I don't understand is like why we keep having like why do we keep having the discussion about it? Like nothing's gonna change. I mean, I
It's
don't
never
think it's
going
gonna
to.
unless
I don't think
somebody
so
were like
either.
seriously get hurt. But does anyone ever like actually get hurt? Like I know ESPN said like he was injured after, but like there's no way, right?
No, he's going to play in their
No.
next game, and I think that's
Of
really all
course
you
he
need to know,
is.
right?
Yeah, like he's fine. Like
Yeah,
win.
until something like legitimate happens, you can't do anything about it.
No, I mean, like you said, I think they should just win because I mean, Wake Forest isn't like a bad team, but still, like
They're kind of
you're
fun. They're
eight.
really athletic.
Yeah, you're
Really
eight
good at
ranked Duke
home.
though. You're 8 ranked
Yeah.
Duke. Like, go win. It's your state, anyways, right?
Yeah, that I just think everyone defending that I just think is dumb. And like they point to
Yeah,
the
you're
Big
a
12
nerd.
and they're like, "Oh, well the Big 12 banned it." Like no, they didn't. Like there's still been like what 5 or 6 this year in the Big 12, if not more. And all it is a fine. Like the schools don't care. The kids
No,
the people who are storming the courts certainly don't care.
no, God, no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's how I feel. It's just like go win. It's part of sports, you know. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, remember not last year, but the year before, where Tennessee beat Alabama at home. That goalpost was in the river. Like you're not stopping that. You know, it's the way it is. It's fun. There's nothing wrong with having fun. Like I said, as long as no one seriously gets hurt, like I don't see that stopping anytime soon.
and he didn't. So
Yeah.
for him to and for them to like start that, like I sprained my ankle because of that.
Yeah,
Like
I bet.
to like initiate that. And then everybody like he's gonna play the next game. Like he's not
Yeah,
gonna sit
absolutely.
to
And
make
he's
a
gonna
point.
be fine too. There's not gonna be a damn thing wrong with him. He's fine. He's just wham wham wham. Poor Kyle Filipowski. Oh, no one could be Kyle Filipowski. Your life is so hard, dude. Douchebag, whatever. Get over yourself.
It's true though. It is like actually get over yourself. Like it's
Yeah.
like,
Guys trying to be Christian Leitner or what? Like, get over yourself.
taking a book out of the Grayson Allen Duke book.
Yeah, it's like, get out of here. Whatever. I didn't mean to sidetrack that, but I just.
No, I was gonna bring that up anyways since we were
Yeah,
talking
no,
about that game.
I had a. Yeah, I guess couples showers are a thing. That's what I was at yesterday. Like, you know, how you have a bridal shower. Yeah, except it was like men were included too. It was first experience for that, but like it was fine. We just like we were in Milwaukee for a couple hours and we came home. But we stopped at the bar after for a drink or two, and that was on the TV. I was like, whoa, what's going on there? And you just see the video. I was like, yeah, that didn't look like, exciting for him to be involved in, but I don't care. Like, win your game. Any other looks you had?
Furman -8 against Wofford at home.
I didn't like
Furman
that
was
bet.
coming in. Really?
No,
I thought
I
it was a
didn't
really
like
good
that
spot
bet.
for them. Furman was coming off of a bad loss, and I believe 2 in a row, and Wofford was coming off of like a relatively good win, and I just thought it was a smash spot. I mean, they were up by 5 at half, and I was like,
yeah,
this might be
maybe.
cutting it close, and then they just ran away with it. They ended up winning by
And when I say
14.
I didn't like it, it's just I didn't decide to do it. It's not like I faded it or anything. I just was like, whatever, I'll pass on that one. But I didn't look
That was
into
really all I
it
had,
either,
though.
so.
I told myself, I was like, I'll probably add more later. Like, those were all on the 1 o'clock slate, and that was kind of my plan, was like, I'll take 3 in the 1 o'clock slate,
Mm-hmm.
and then depending on how that goes, I'll reevaluate, probably add a couple more in like the 5 o'clock slate, 4 o'clock slate. And I went 3-0, and I just like couldn't get myself to add it. I was like, I don't know that it's going to get better.
Yeah,
if
I've
I
had
do.
those days. Yeah, I've had those days where you're just like satisfied. You're like, okay, I'm good. Like walk away.
Yeah, and I was pretty in the weeds on college baseball that day, so I was like, I went 3-0. I was like, that's a good day, and it was capped off a good week. 11-6 in college basketball in the week. Like, that's fine by me.
Yeah, no complaints. You got anything else to talk about from Saturday, or I can do my Saturday real quick?
No, that was it. My Saturday was pretty light as far as like relevant sports that most people will watch.
Yeah, I guess college baseball's
still pretty niche,
little...
so I watch it a lot. But
yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the card. Of course, another NBA loser. I decided to fade the Pistons. Shocker, they covered. Probably because they got the message that I was on the Magic, but whatever. I don't really care. I didn't bet any hockey. I will say that I've been really good at the hockey totals for past 3-4 days. Like, I hit one total on Friday night. I didn't talk about that one, but it was just one game. I bet the Wild Oilers under. Senators on Thursday night. I think I mentioned that when we recorded, but like, it's been a good string of totals. I haven't been as good on the sides, but the totals are like, I'm seeing the board really well there, so no complaints there. College basketball, it could have been a bad day. Like, you ever start your day like I talked about earlier? Like, I usually just go hour by hour. You ever just 11 o'clock goes by and you're like 1 and 2, 1 and 3, and you're like, oh man, here we go. Didn't happen. I was able to like grab it by the reins and pull it in and flip it around. Indiana, they're horrible. I'm done with that team. Like, I want the coach gone. I want the kids transferred. I want them out. Like, that's a brand. Indiana basketball is a brand, right? They're blue blood. They're the only blue blood that isn't a blue. Like, Indiana basketball it means something. Not anymore. They're a joke. That team's so bad. I'm done with that team. I like the Penn State too. Like,
dude, that team is so weird.
Penn State?
It seems like all the
Yeah, like they were really bad to start. Like, really bad. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they ticked me off too. Like, I think I bet them against Michigan State both times and lost both of them. But this most recent, I think they played like last week or the week before. I think I bet them plus 8.5, plus 9. I think they were playing in East Lansing too. They lost by like 40 the first time. I'm like, that looks a little weird. It wasn't weird. It wasn't even close. So, but yeah, Indiana, they're just about dead to me. That team, really, that made me pretty mad. Towson, I bet Towson plus 2 against Charleston. That was a bad look. I thought Towson had been playing pretty well the last couple of weeks, or last couple of games, I should say, over the last couple of weeks. I bet them against Monmouth Thursday night. Charleston, I saw a lot of people on Delaware. I thought that was a good spot to fade Charleston. So they came through. I was like, okay, let's try it again. On behalf of everyone who lost their money on Delaware, That one wasn't close either. But I did get the over in Arkansas and Mizzou. Holy crap, Mizzou is bad, but holy crap, do they try? They tried. Arkansas is not very good either, so that's
No,
probably why it ended up working. Yeah,
Arkansas is
they're bad.
really bad at this point. I don't know that they're completely trying as much as Mizzou is, but
No, I don't know how Arkansas is so bad either. Like I had the game on. Like I don't know if you have YouTube TV or not, but they have like the multi-view with like the quad box. You can watch 4 of the games at one time. They were in the one of the corners, and their transfer class was solid. I thought like they had a couple of pretty big transfers come in. I don't remember any of the names. I didn't really look that closely because they're pretty much irrelevant, but they're bad. They didn't
they
look.
had the internal meltdown. They were actually pretty good early in the year. They had that weird internal meltdown with a couple of guys, and I think like a lot of guys want out of the program now. And it's
could be. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I don't follow all
a
of
couple
those
weeks ago.
stories
Yeah, it was
too
something weird.
closely.
I didn't get didn't really look into it all that much. I just know that they had some issues internally, and
And it's
pretty much melted down since.
Yeah, and it's weird because it seems like they were a perennial SEC contender for the last couple of years. Like Musselman did a pretty good job of like building that program up. Like they were pretty good. You know, they weren't at the top to win the SEC, the last 2-3 years. They were definitely in the top 3-4, like were they ever favored? No, but like they were it's not like they were 7th or 8th best odds on favorite. It was always Kentucky and Alabama and then probably Arkansas, right? But bet that over, I should say. That came through. And then it was like, okay, let's try a couple more. What did I bet? I bet Maine -7. Over in Kennesaw State and Stetson. I kind of like that. What conference is that? Is that the ASUN or?
That's the ASUN, yeah.
That's the
Kennesaw's
ASUN. I like doing
Yeah.
those overs. Like Kennesaw State typically rips. Like they play pretty fast. That Queens College is a team that they just scoot. I don't know what it is. Like the pace must just be absurd because like then there's no way they're any good. But like they score in the 160s regularly. Like I feel like a schmuck betting over 160, over 170, and like they hit. It's like it shouldn't be like that. I bet one a couple of weeks ago. I bet like Kennesaw State played. I don't remember what the opponent they played was, but it was like it was Lipscomb. It was like 91-89. The over was 170. It's like you really played over 170, yeah, and it hit no problem. It's like that one didn't come through. They were crawling to start. Like that one missed by like 5 or 6, and I think like ESPN app has like the line graph on the bottom of the screen, with the live scoring or whatever. Can kind of see like you just see one big flat line from like 11 minutes in the first half to 3 minutes left in the first half. Like you figure there's 40 minutes in a college basketball game. They missed the over by like what was it? 6 playing 32 minutes. You just play passable basketball for 8 of the minutes. That hits no problem. But after that, it was really good. Like I went on a pretty nice run. I didn't miss a bet the rest of the day. I bet St. Bonaventure +5, UCF -2.
Who was that against?
Bonaventure played UMass.
Who were the Bonnies against?
Yeah, they
that
played
was a good
UMass.
I was leaning towards UMass there, and the line moved. Like I probably would have taken it had I gotten it. I think the open was at like 3. By the time I was kind of hunting around, it was like 4.5, 5 in the morning.
Yeah, that's why I've jumped on it. I thought it moved too much.
That's what I thought too. That's why I stayed away. I was like, at 3, I probably would have taken it and ended up losing.
Yeah,
but,
it was 2.5. I got it at 5. It was like -4.5, -115. My book's a little sharper.
Yeah.
They move those lines a little quicker. But it was a slow start for them, but they were up like 8 or 10. They gave the lead away, but like they got it back and they didn't give it back. So that one ended up being a pretty easy bet. UCF -2. The Big 12 just seems to have those telling like road ranked opponent lines. I think every one of them came through from what I saw. Like
they've had those all year. That's been like a cash cow, and like typically like that system
Well, it
is
is
pretty
a
good.
cash cow. It hits at like 65%, but it seemed
But it
like
seems
there
like in
was
the
a
Big 12 this year, yeah, like it seems
yeah.
like
Well,
there's a
no,
lot of games that
okay,
have run that
yeah,
this year.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah, it seems like in the other conferences, those spots don't always come through. Like they'll get bet too
Yeah,
much, and then like I want to say it was Nevada a couple weeks back. I think you bet it, but like they won, but they didn't cover.
when they
Or did
played
you?
SDSU,
No, that was different because you bet SDSU.
I did. I haven't bet Nevada. I don't know
But
if
I
I
just
bet Nevada.
remember like there was one of those scenarios. It was I don't think it was in the Big 12. It might have been, but I don't think it was. It's like that spread moves out too much and they still win,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't cover. But it's in a bit it seems like to your point in the Big 12 it seems like that spot always comes through. Like Okie came through. They almost didn't. Like they went to overtime and they ended up winning.
Yeah,
I think they only won by 1 though. So if you had
yeah, on that on
-1,
that on that
you were sad.
on the buzzer beater 3,
Yeah, exactly.
which
So
was
like if you
crazy because it was a horrible shot.
Mhm.
The
Oh,
kid
yeah,
smacked it.
The Houston one too, huh? Like you had
Yeah.
second chance. Like I was watching that game, I didn't play it, but I saw a lot of people on Baylor. I'm like, well, you got lucky for now, but it was that close, and it turns out they just kind of folded. But yeah, I had Okie written down. I passed on it. Like that team's just so bad, I can't. And I think they just beat BYU recently. I don't know if that was last week or during the week. Like they thumped BYU on the road too. Like they lost in Provo, like bad. Unless I had that backwards. Did they play in Stillwater?
Um,
I thought it
I
was
don't
in
know where that
Provo though, because that line was like 11. I mean, you didn't have to look it up,
they
but
they did know that was in Stillwater, but yeah, they
that was
got
in
smoked. They
Stillwater.
lost by 10.
Yeah, but it was like BYU -11. It was a big number, I thought.
Yeah.
But not to get too sidetracked. But yes, that was a spot I passed that came through. You mentioned Wake Forest already. And this is where things get a little dicey. I played Pitt -3. That was a good bet, I thought. I mean, Virginia Tech won the first matchup, so it looked a little short just because Virginia Tech's not all that good. But they had just thumped Virginia on Monday night. So I like that spot for Pitt. I think Pitt just lost their most recent game before that too. So Pitt won by 15. UCSD, they were playing UC Irvine in La Jolla, where I've been. I bet you that barn was not filled up. I bet you there were 200 open seats out of a 300 capacity. They tied it up at the end of regulation. They won by 4 in overtime. UCSD -1. But Incarnate Word +26 against McNeese State. Thought that just moved too much. They covered the 22 where it opened. I had it at 26. That was cool. And then I bet Maine -7. Same scenario. Opened at New Jersey Institute of Technology. Yeah, it's a real school. +11.5. Got steamed all the way down to 7. They won by 10. So part of me, my betting style is looking for things that do move a little too much because 4 points is a big swing a lot of the time, right? You'll notice that something will get steamed off the open. You buy the bottom of that line, it falls in between the two numbers. It's fairly common. So I look for spots like that. If it just moves too much, you don't have to bet that way. I like to though. Then the last college bet I did on Saturday was UIC +15 against Indiana State. That pushed. Didn't get the hook on that, but they were playing pretty well. They were down like 20 at one point, got back into it. So like, just lucky that one didn't lose because
UIC has been like the bane of my existence the last like month. I truly do not believe that team is good. And every time I've faded them over like the last month or so, they have cooked whoever I've taken against them.
The conference is weird.
I took Northern Iowa against them on the Super Bowl day, and
yeah, they won by
they just cooked them. And UNI shot. It was at UNI. I think UNI was -3, and UIC was never trailing. I think they led from the tip, and it was just one of those games.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? And that was that second time that week I had faded them. I faded them that week too. I had taken Illinois State -4 at home against UIC, and UIC beat them by like 8. Like I don't think that team is good, but it seems like every time I faded them over the last month or so, like they've just cooked.
Yeah, good teams win, great teams cover. That's the old mantra. You know that.
And that is the old mantra, and they're doing a pretty good job at that right now.
All right, so that pretty much wrapped it up for me for Saturday. You got anything for Sunday?
I only bet college baseball today. Didn't get a real chance to dive into the college basketball slate. Not that I typically will go in on Fridays and Sundays are typically like my 2 days where I don't really bet college basketball. I usually don't like the slates. Usually don't like the conferences that play on Fridays and Sundays. So I stayed away and I threw down 4 college bets. A 2-unit play, 2 1-unit plays, and a half unit. I went 3-1 and only lost a half unit play. So saw something pretty good today. Hit East Carolina against UNC in the series finale in Greenville, and that in the jungle, and that place is just a madhouse. And they just could not buy an out today, and they went up in the 9th, and then they coughed up the lead in the top of the 9th on a wild pitch, and then UNC walked a couple guys and gave up a couple hits, and then they walked it off, and they won 10-9. So that was an easy one. Well, not easy, but that was a good one to get. Taking them all 3 games in that series as an underdog, even though I think they're the better team. They have a better pitching staff. So, and I lost game 1 in a 2-1 game. It was one of those games where like ECU just ran themselves off the bases. Lose a close one. I don't really get upset at those. It's like you lose a pitching duel, and it is what it is. I managed to bet Indiana at the bottom of that line all 3 days this weekend against a really bad Baylor team. And after the first weekend I watched Indiana, I had to switch my pick on who I thought was going to win the Big Ten. Preseason, I was kind of in on Iowa. Like, they have some really good pitching. They have a guy that should probably be a top 10 pick as their Friday night guy. And I kind of was not down on Indiana, but I kind of just was like, I don't think they're as good. And I watched them the first weekend. I was like, holy shit, this team is for real. And they were playing Baylor this weekend, who's like the bottom of the Big 12. And Indiana is probably going to win the Big 10 this year. So you're pretty much getting, top to bottom, probably a worse conference against, the bottom of a pretty good conference. And they were like minus 140 every single day. And I just hammered them every single day. And they won by 4, they won by 8, and they 10-runned them today. And it was just like and that's typically like why I like betting on college baseball, because like the market doesn't really, the market reacts quickly because there's not a lot of money in it.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Like, if people like find those teams and you don't get on it early, you won't be able to bet it straight, because like my rule is like I'll take straight bets on favorites up until about 165, like minus 165, just because like a pick 'em in college baseball is typically minus 130 and minus 110, not minus 110, minus 110.
Yeah, there's
like you have to be comfortable laying juice with favorites. So I typically will not try to go above 165. That's typically my cap on a straight. And Indiana was like minus 140 to minus 150 in every single one of those games. And I just hammered them in all 3 games. I was like, this is going to be really easy. And they smoked them in all 3. Like, those games were really never close. And that's a lot of it. Like, in the line reading aspect of college baseball, it doesn't exist as much, just because any handle that comes in is typically people like tailing other people. Like, if somebody sees someone reputable put out, oh, I'm betting this team, this is a really good spot here.
Yeah, they just tail because they don't know anything about it.
And 30 other people go down and they bet that game, like the line's going to move, just because there's not a lot of handle in it to begin. So I always try to get on those early, but I like to target series is typically how I'll do it. So like coming into Friday, I'll circle 5 or 6 teams and or series that I want to fade and or back. And I pretty much stick with those couple of teams all weekend. I did it this weekend. I took Indiana all 3 days. I took ECU all 3 days. I took Oregon State yesterday in a parlay, and I took them today straight. And I took Auburn twice this weekend and went 1-1 with them. So I usually just like to pick out spots beforehand. So that way, like when the line, and I don't know what the line is going to be, before Friday. So it's hard for me to like kind of judge that. I
Yeah.
usually have a general idea in my head, but it's weird just because the market is still so small that the lines aren't always accurate. But I usually try to pick out my spots beforehand, so then right as the lines drop, I know what I'm betting.
Right.
And that's why, like, and the research part of it is a little bit tougher too, just because I try to figure out all the rotations and stuff beforehand. So that way I know like who's throwing on what day, and then from there it's kind of just checking like scores, like bullpen usage, stuff like that. But I pretty much just try to target teams ahead of time, and then right as those lines drop on each day, I just know what I'm going to bet already. And I usually have really confident spots based, like Oregon State today, like Oklahoma State took Arkansas last night past midnight playing in 15 innings and beat the number 2 team in the country in Arkansas. And they used pretty much every single pitcher they had last night. And then you have to bounce back and you have to play the number 6 team in the country. And
Yeah,
Oregon
it's not
State's
going to
only
go
like
well.
only minus 140. And Oregon State won by 18 yesterday. It's like, to me, it's like a no-brainer. It's my biggest play of the year so far. And that's the second time I've done that with Oregon State, fading a team coming off of like an extra inning game. It's a lot of stuff like that. And you played in college too. Like, you know, that like the look ahead spots don't always like exist in college baseball. Like it's not always situational.
Yeah.
But like,
No, I
but you
follow.
know how, yeah, and like when you play those late games, like you know how hard it is to bounce back the next day, even
Yeah,
when you
you're just
play a really good
tired.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
you're just
just
tired.
even when you win, like even when you're coming off that high, like you're probably gonna get punched in the mouth pretty early that next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
But I had a good week this week. I was 10-7 for a little over 5 units in college baseball this week, so
Mm-hmm.
can't complain. Had a good day
No,
today.
no. For me today, pretty wishy-washy. Right. I mean, nothing to really write home about. I had a golf future that didn't work. Picked a guy to win. He did not win. So my whole thing was like, just pay for that today. Like you're already down 10, just see if you can. Or down. Yeah, golf. I just sprinkle a little bit. I don't do anything crazy on golf. But I was down a unit there, or 0.1 unit, whatever. Down a little bit there, and just try to pay for that. Right, just whatever. Got that taken care of. Bet SMU, college basketball, that didn't work. Bet St. John's, that worked. I thought that was a little easy, like just handicapping wise. I thought that was going to be pretty obvious spot, right? Creighton just beat UConn. I thought St. John's, everyone would, hop on that, especially with how poor they've been over the last couple of weeks. And that was pretty easy, wire to wire winner. But the over in FAU and Memphis, pace was there, execution was not. They missed a lot of threes. The pace was there in the second half mostly. Like the first half was a little slow, but they almost got it at the end. I mean, they probably needed overtime. They were a little behind. Like I think it missed by like 10 or 15. What was it, 74, 78? Yeah, I missed by like 10. So I needed overtime down the stretch. But FAU didn't make a basket for like the last 6 minutes. All they made was free throws. Go figure. There was one more college basketball bet I played. I could look at it. No, I did not. I was doing a lot of hockey today. Hit the under in the Lightning and Devils. Hit the over in the Flyers and Penguins. And I've got the Ducks right now. So that's pretty much it. Like you recapped your week. I don't know how many bets I have. It's probably like 40 or 50, but up 5.7 units. It's a good week.
That's a great week. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know what I was up on the week, but
it'll be a little more if
week.
the Ducks come through. They got the Ducks plus 140. Let's just see. Are they winning? I doubt it. I definitely doubt it. I think it's still tied. Oh, they're down 1-0. Okay, so yeah, I did my math there. If they lose, it'll be 5.7 units. If they win, it'll be like 8.1. So good week. Bad week the week before, so good bounce back. Get that moving in the right direction at the right time.
Yeah, I'm finally starting to heat up. I've been so excited for college baseball to start just because I know the game really well, so it kind of just supplements when I decide to suck really bad in my other sports.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good week. 23-13, up 8.4. I'll take that.
Complaints.
It's a good week.
All right. You want to highlight what we're doing the next couple of days and then wrap this bad boy up?
Yeah, we're going to be diving in every single conference tournament, broken down, betting odds, some of the sleepers you should watch for, some of the teams that will not have a chance. That's what we're breaking down this week.
Those won't be.
Over the
that
next
won't
2
be
weeks.
breaking news, though. That won't be breaking news. The teams that have no chance. That won't be breaking news. But
no, it won't be. I think everybody's aware of those. But we're breaking down every single conference tournament, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what we're
You're
gonna
not
do.
want to miss it.
Yeah, you're definitely not gonna want to miss it. What we're gonna do though is, I mean, how many conferences are there? Like 30 something, 32, something like that. You don't need an exact number. We're just gonna bundle them together, like we're kind of doing it based on when their conference tournament starts. We're kind of prioritizing the earlier conference tournaments. So what we're going to do is, like, especially for those smaller ones, we're going to group like 3 or 4 of them together. And then we'll like have the indentations or the breaks in the video. That way you can like skip to whatever conference you want to hear. Like, hey, if you have no interest in the NEC, don't blame me.
Everyone has interest in the NEC.
No one has interest in the NEC, but someone's going to get in. Someone's going to win that conference. So we'll talk about it there. But more on the details for that coming soon. But you'll have some content to consume in the next couple of weeks about that.
That's our show, folks. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at Overdue Sports and overduesports.com. You can find both of us there. We're tomorrow's Monday, so college baseball top 25 dropping early in the morning, and we'll go from there. We got a lot of cool stuff coming over the next 2 weeks.
Good,
so
bad, the ugly column coming too. I got to work on that tonight.
Mondays are a busy day for us now.
Mm-hmm.
That's our show, folks. Check us out. That's a wrap.
I'm molded in these blueprints. Same place you parked your car. And you were always out to get me back then. We would play too hard. Lost in my back pocket. Right in your front yard. This avenue signs a shamble. You only get so far.